Hey, everybody, it's Kathy, and welcome back to the other side of rock bottom. Today, we're diving into another powerful story of recovery and redemption. My guest today is Thomas, and he's here to share his journey through addiction, hitting rock bottom, and finding freedom on the other side. Thomas, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what your life was like before addiction took hold, your childhood, young adult.
Well, I had a tough childhood, as I'm sure many of others here have. I had a dad that was multiply addicted, and when he came home from work, he was drunk and he wanted to hurt someone. I'm the oldest. I protected my mom. I caught a lot of beatings. Was in a hospital once because of it. My brothers, I try to protect them too, but my goal was to protect my mother from my father. And I had a mom that was very, very young when I was born, before they were married. And my mother used to take me to hotels to catch my father with other women. She'd put me in front of the door. She'd knock on the door and she'd go hide. And my father or the lady he was with would open the door and the fireworks started. And I had also, my mom was one that on one occasion, she said, I want to kill myself. You better go find your father. And I was about 10 years old and I was trying to track him down. Where are you? Where are you? Mom has a knife at her throat. She's going to kill herself. She came back and basically, he said, "Don't you love your children? How could you do this?" And she says, "No, I don't care about my children. I only care about you." The message was clear. I didn't matter. And I'm just going to go a little in the front of this podcast. And what I learned through my knowledge and my master's degree in social work and my journey through the 12-step program, been in recovery for 30 years, and my experience in helping others, and also the messages carried to me. The one important message that I learned is a child that feels like they don't care about their parents won't stop loving their parents, but they will stop loving themselves. And what happened to me early on is I became fragmented, like all addicts are. I presented the world one part of me, and I was successful in business, and I was very good in sports, but inside I was broken. And I could say one thing for sure, as a recovering addict, we come in all different colors, shapes, sizes, religions. We're all different from the outside, some rich, some poor, but on the inside is where we all identify. We're all broken souls early on, looking for something to make us whole, something to give us what we didn't get in childhood, something that makes us feel like we're alive, drama, whatever it is. And that was my journey early on in recovery.
Okay. What about young adulthood? What was that like for you? Or was addiction already part of your story by that point?
Oh yeah, I started addiction early on. I had a couple of real important experience that came to me that really changed my life. There were really three. One was my father. I didn't have a relationship with my father at all. And my father got into AA early on, about 15 years he spent in AA, and he became a wonderful man, wonderful grandfather to my children. But to me, he was still a monster, 10-foot giant. And I got a call one night from my mother who said to me, "Listen, I think you should visit your father in the hospital. My father had cancer and it spread all over and he was dying." She said, "I don't think he's going to be around long. Please go see him." And I went to the hospital, and I remember I saw a priest in the hospital, and I said to the priest, "Listen, do me a favor. Could you go in room so and so and talk to the gentleman, Charles Gagliano, because he's never had any spirituality. He's dying. He doesn't have long to live." He went in there and spoke to him. Now, my father was in AA for many years already. He came out, the priest, and I said, "Well, how's he doing?" He goes, "Is that your father in bed too?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "He's got more spirituality than anybody I know." What? Where'd he get that from? He got that from the program. And I went in and I sat down near him, and he said, "Tom, I want to talk to you for a minute." And he was very, cancer had spread all over. He's very weak. He said, "I was sitting where you were sitting 20 years ago, and my father was dying of cancer. I never could tell my father I loved him, and I never could tell my father how I felt. I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want this world to leave this world and have it happen to you." And I didn't know what to do. I was early in recovery myself. And As a good addict, and we're all like this, I didn't know how to regulate uncomfortable feelings. I certainly didn't know how to deal with conflict or anything in my life. I used to run to addiction. That was my MO when I felt all these feelings. And I got up. I wanted to run out of the room. He grabbed my hand and he started to cry. Now, I never saw my father cry. The only time I saw my father cry is when he would beat the crap out of me as a child. And he would come in a drunken stoop and say, I'm so sorry. Don't stop loving me. But these were real tears. So I walked out of that hospital room, and one of my addictions was gambling. And I said, God, please help me. Help me. I'm going to go act out in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to do anything. And I remember I opened that elevator and out came a guy from one of the meetings I went to. He was just happened to be visiting somebody else that day. And I remember I ran over and I hugged him. And it was like, wow, I didn't know you liked me that much, Tom. But the Lord sent me somebody to do for me what I couldn't do for myself. After that, I really threw myself into recovery. I started to run groups in my house, 12-step groups. I sponsored many, many people. And then I had another situation with my youngest son. And this is what opened up what I do today about childhood messages and their impact on every part of our life, to the intimacy we have or don't have, our parenting skills, careers we choose, even the addictive thinking we develop. And I remember sitting there with my son, and we had to put our dog to sleep. And he was very close to the dog. And he went in his room, and I knew I had to do something. I went over to him in his room. I said, how you doing? He said, I'm okay, Dad. Well, I didn't just stop and do anything. I pulled his arm around me and put his head on my chest, and he started to cry. You see, I realized I was giving my son a safe place, a place to cry in his father's arms, a place I never had as a kid. My father would call me his little girl if I cried. My other son at a baseball game at 8 years old said, Dad, how come those baseball players cheer so much for their favorite baseball player? I said, well, those baseball players are the heroes. And at 8, he thought and he said to me, you know, Dad, they may be my heroes someday, but you're always going to be my first hero. To everyone out there, we are our children's first heroes. And what I learned in school is egocentricity. We want nothing more than our parents to love us and validate us at a very young age. When my dad was out drinking and coming home drunk, I never said, oh, gee, he needs AA at 8 years old. I said, what's the matter with me that my father doesn't want to be with me? So I segued into running my groups for childhood messages. And then I was told by a few people that I should go back to school. I went back for my master's degree and do this professionally. I met a wonderful man named Dr. Abraham Twersky, renowned. He worked with Charles Schultz and um, Charlie Brown. He read my transcripts and he said, "We got to get this book out." And I named the book "The Problem Was Me." It was a lot easier to work on me than to work on the world and change the world. And from there, I went back to school. And I remember the first day I went to school, it was 30 years later. What did I do? I had my little loose leaf book, my pencil sharpener, bottle of water. I was 30 years behind and I was mad at God. I'll be honest. I said, why am I doing this at 52? Why am I doing this? It's ridiculous. And I remember walking out and looking up at the Lord and saying, I hope you're getting a kick out of this. I hope you're enjoying this. I really do. I went to the wrong building, the wrong class, the wrong everything. I was fit to be tied and mad at the Lord. And I walked into a class, and the teacher, the professor, was at the front of the class writing down on the board. And I walked in, and just before the class started, I was in the wrong room. He turned around and he said, Tom? I said, yeah. He was a guy that was coming to my groups. He walked over to me, and in front of the class, he gives me this big hug. And I'm sure that was great gossip for everybody in that class. They must have said, whoa, we got to talk about this. And he told me something that helped me. He said, I'm going to tell you what you told me. You once told me, get your feet where they should be, and your head's going to follow. I see you're full of fear. I see He says, I don't know if you saved my life, but I really believe you saved my marriage. So I'm going to tell you what you told me. Just keep getting your feet here. And I eventually graduated from Rutgers with a master's degree in social work years later. My book became a bestseller. And I started to facilitate groups. Now, my groups are different. I really believe that what addiction is an intimacy substitute. At a young age, we stop trusting people for our needs, and we have to go somewhere else. Our brain almost says, whoa, whoa, don't go to people. You're going to be hurt. But you need to find something to substitute for that.
Right.
And we went to addiction. At least I did. And
Yeah.
my groups are all about having to build back relationships. Now, you can't do that if you're not sober. There's too much
Right.
self-hate inside of here for us to show up like healthy adults. Can't do it.
Right.
But when we work on sobriety in my groups, and we also work on how to have healthy conversations like an adult, not a scared little kid that wants to run away all the time or get angry or shut down. The version of intimacy, how many of us who are addicts saw a healthy version of intimacy from our parents? I don't think too many of us. Did
You're
our
right.
parents help each other, soothe each other, feel better when they spoke to each other? Or did they run away, shut down, go out and act out, drink, whatever they did? So we don't
Right.
have a good version. We got to learn how to do this thing called emotional intimacy. That's what I focus on in my group. And if anybody would like to join my group, visit my website and let me know. theproblemwasme.com. Now I do charge.
Awesome.
I do charge. I'm gonna say,
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Let me ask you this though. I do want to back up for a second because,
sure.
just out of curiosity more than anything, how old were you when you first fell into addiction? Was it gradual or was it like you drank one night and said, "Oh crap, I feel good"?
It was gradual. It was a little at a time and a little more at a time and a little more and a
Right.
little more at a time. And I'm multiply addicted. I have a lot of addictions. And um, again, I thought I was in control of my addictions, but they were in control of me. And I tell people all the time, the toughest thing for an addict to do is to walk into a process that they're not in control of. That's what recovery is. I can't control my recovery. Okay. I have to trust the process. And that's hard for people that have been hurt in their life and betrayed in their life. And now you're telling me I got to trust this process? What are you, crazy? But I have to learn to trust a process that I can't control. I always wanted to control everything that I can't control. And
That's a big
eventually,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say
no,
that's a
please.
huge key is what we can and can't control, right? Because I wanted to fix, manage, and control everything. So what ultimately led to your rock bottom? Where was it you finally said, I can't do this shit no more?
My wife and kids left me. That was it. And that and my father being in AA way before I was, and realizing at that point, either I could try and fix the world because I'm the great fixer. I was good in business. And let me tell you, the control I had in my life worked well in business, but not in relationships, not in recovery. And I realized I had a choice. I either could try and fix the world or I could fix me. That's why I eventually named my book, The Problem Was Me. And that was the turning point of me getting into recovery. And look, like my clients, when I have new clients, they look at recovery as a punishment. I got to go to meetings. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I tell them the same thing. When you go to a meeting, every part of your body is going to want you to look at what you don't like about the meeting. I want you to do something for me. I want you to take a piece of paper and pen, write down one, two, or three things that you liked about the meeting, how you could relate. That's what we're going to talk about. I know you're going to have plenty of stuff to talk about how you didn't relate, but I share some of my experience, strength, and hope with them. And again, I've been in recovery since 1986 in 12-step meetings. So many, many profound, wonderful people have given me messages that you won't find in books. You won't find anywhere. And I carry that message forward. They're not my messages. They're what is given to me that I give to other people. And I think that's part of the 12 step.
So let me ask you this. What kind of support system do you have now? Right? Because life be life and it gets crazy. What do you do now today to maintain your sobriety? Because when I have clients that come to me and say I've relapsed or I'm ready to drink, my first question to them is, what did you stop doing?
One of the biggest thing is I stopped and eliminated my witnesses. Who are witnesses? Witnesses are sponsor, therapist, priest, rabbi, group, meetings. As soon as I start to eliminate my witnesses, I'm in trouble. That's the very first thing that'll happen. I eliminate my witnesses. And I tell all my clients, if you do that, you may not know it, but you're heading back to your addiction way before you use again. Because we need witnesses, we need accountability, we need people that are going to call us on our stuff. My groups are all on a group text with each individual group way before they're ready to act out with addictions. There, I had a fight with my wife, my children, my boss, my worker. These uncomfortable feelings, these conflicts are the beginning of acting out unless we contact our witnesses and surrender it. So I have a very easy way of looking at the first three steps. One, I'm powerless. How do I know that? I do my unmanageability list. That proves that my addiction has hurt every relationship in my life, especially the one with me. Step two, came to believe a power greater than myself. Those are my witnesses. Those are gods with skin. Those are the people I just mentioned, sponsor, therapist, whoever they are. If I eliminate them, already I'm in trouble. Because then I'm going to start to think I can handle certain things, which I can't. Maybe I can handle a glass of beer, a lottery ticket, a little marijuana, whatever it is your drug of choice is. Step three, what do those witnesses tell you they did that helped them stay sober? When I go to somebody and tell them what to do, it's not as powerful as if I tell somebody what I did to get sober. So again, I have my degrees, master's degree, I got certificate in drugs and alcohol, but I bring the 12 steps in. I bring my experience, strength, and hope in. I bring what I learned in school in. So we can take this jigsaw puzzle that's all over the place. And I could start to help people put it together a little bit at a time so they see who they were, who they are today,
Mhm.
and where they want to go.
Right. Who they have the potential to be.
To bench it, perfectly said, potential to be. Correct.
Yeah. So listen, man, that is so encouraging. So obviously these angel type figures, whether they come in the form of friends, counselors, whatever, that support group is very important, obviously, to you.
What I have found that anybody that says that they could stay sober without a support group
Mm,
will probably switch seats on the Titanic and go from alcohol to gambling to sex to porn to da 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 da. Yeah, they may stop their drug of choice, but if you don't heal what's broken inside, which is the real problem, because the addictions are the symptom. That's what I mean by switch seats in the Titanic.
mhm.
If you're not fixing what's broken inside, that's why I go to childhood. What were the messages given to you that you're still carrying around with you that's sabotaging your life? When are you
Right.
time traveling? What I mean by that is when are you hearing your wife, boss, or kids, and you're going back to that little kid and you're not hearing what they're saying, you're hearing the time traveling process that you're not good enough, you don't matter, and you're reacting with anger. These are the things we talk about in group time traveling. What was broken? What were the messages given to you? When we're in a relationship with our wife or husband, we're not just in a relationship with them. We're in a relationship with their childhood messages as well. And they're in a
Right.
relationship with your childhood messages as well. The more you know that, both of you, husband, wife, partner, whatever, the better you're going to be able to hear what they're not saying, not what they're saying, what they're not saying. We do a lot of that in group.
That's amazing. And that's a very good point made as well. What they're not saying, right? Because there's a lot hidden in that.
Oh, a load. Load.
especially when, and at least I know for me, expectations come with that too. And I had to learn real quick. Those expectations are future resentments, real
Unrealistic,
quick.
unrealistic resentments will always cause predetermined resentments. Always.
Every time. So let me ask you this. I want to shift it a little bit. If you could go back and talk to the younger Thomas, and that was an active addiction, what would you say to him today?
I would say to him that you can't handle everything. Ask for help. I know you don't trust people, and I know you were set up from your mother to be a caretaker, that you always put other people's feelings ahead of your own, but that's not going to work for you. You have to take care of yourself in a healthy way. So ask for help.
Okay.
And
In
also,
addition, oh, go ahead. I was going to say, what other
yeah,
encouragement do you have? Go
the
ahead.
other thing is I tell everybody out there, don't wait to get help until you feel like doing it. You're not going to feel like doing it. Get your feet, like the gentleman told me, the professor, and like I tell my clients, get your feet where they should be, whether you feel like it or not. Because sometimes this best thinking is not going to help you. Sometimes you got to get your feet there, even if you don't feel like doing it.
Action. Action's definitely a key too in recovery. So thank you so much. And I do have one more question for you. And this is the one that I always end it with. Thomas, actually, before I get to that question, I want to give you the opportunity to again tell us where we can find you, your work, your book, all that. This is your moment.
Thank you. So my website is theproblemwasme.com. That's the problem was me, not is me, was me, because everybody .com. You can get a hold of me if you want to interested in joining one of my groups. I have three, and I have some openings in two of them. My best-selling book is called The Problem Was Me, and I wrote another book. Don't put your crap in your kid's diaper.
Ooh.
Yes, yes,
Ooh,
yes.
that's a
And
pretty good one.
it's not about blaming parents, but we have to look at what messages we received that are helpful and useful, and which messages need a little attention. I now do a lot of help with people that have going through infidelity with couples, and
Right.
I help them work through infidelity. It's not easy, but I've had success with that as well. So you can find, ask me questions on my website, theproblemwasme.com. I've been on Sirius Radio with Jenny McCarthy. I spoke with Dr. Oz. I've been a speaker for TD Jakes. I've been on a lot of stuff, which you could find all that stuff if you want to browse around and find some neat stuff. Neat, right? I'm told my age. You could go to my website and you could do that as well.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing all that information. And man, what an amazing story. What an inspiration. And I really like the approach that you take about dealing with the younger child. Because until I started doing that work in ACA, which is Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional
Right.
Families, for anybody listening, that is another great resource out there that can help you look at what dysfunction in your childhood is playing an active role in your life today.
That's right. And
Right.
give it
So,
back. Don't carry it.
exactly.
You've carried
And,
it
and,
long enough.
and what's beautiful is when we make those realizations, then we can make our amends. I'll never forget one of the most profound things I said to my son one time was, "Son, I am sorry I put men before you." And the look on his face was like, you realize that now? And I said, "Yeah, but I only knew what I knew then."
And that's what my father gave me that night at the hospital that really helped me move forward in my recovery. He was sorry and he was in a lot of pain, but he didn't want to see my pain and he wanted
Right,
to free myself from my pain. He was thinking of me first. And that really was one of the things that made me really, really get into recovery because my biggest monster my whole life was my father and my mother, but my
right.
father. But this 10-foot giant came down to a normal size that day in the hospital.
And you got to see the real person
The good person. You know, in my book
behind.
with Abraham Tversky, he always talks about addicts are good people with a bad disease. And when you
Yeah,
get they're like diamonds. When you get all the slut and dirt, and he writes this in my book, you could see the goodness in them. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Good people with a bad disease.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. All right. So to close it out, here's my big question. What does living on the other side of rock bottom mean to you today?
The most important relationship I have is the one with me. And at the end of the day, I just feel such a freedom that I never knew could have existed. I always had a voice screaming for help, an inner voice, but I would never let anybody get close to me. And now I am passing the healthy messages down to my children and grandchildren, and I could see the difference in them from that, and that's priceless.
I can relate because today my son is celebrating 23 days sober.
God bless you and him.
So I can totally relate, and I don't think I've had anybody nail it that well. So thank you so much, Thomas, for opening your heart and sharing your story with us today. I know your honesty and courage will inspire so many who might be struggling right now. So listen, guys, if you're listening or watching right now, please, please remember recovery is possible. No matter how far down you feel you've gone, there is hope and healing on the other side of rock bottom. If today's story has touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel at The Other Side of Rock Bottom. You can also join our community meetings and find resources at midstatecoaching.com. Again, that is midstatecoaching.com. Stay connected, keep the faith, and remember, you're not alone. Until the next time, I'm Kathy, and this has been The Other Side of Rock Bottom.
Are you terrified to face tomorrow? Some mornings feel impossible. But even in the darkest moments, hope is closer than you think. You're not alone. There's hope. Written by Kathy Simmons, a certified recovery coach, Welcome to Recovery is your powerful guide to reclaiming your life. With real stories, practical tools, and compassionate insight, this book lights the way, one page at a time. Whether you're beginning, recommitting, or supporting someone through recovery, find hope, clarity, and strength within these pages. Step into your new chapter. Welcome to Recovery. Take the first step. Get your copy of Welcome to Recovery today and begin your journey to hope.